A very warm good afternoon to our distinguished panel of judges and everyone present here. Our team Andromeda will be delivering a presentation on the topic Revolution of Past, Failure of the Present, a case study on Nepal Bank Limited. Oh my God. So talking about our team, we are undergraduate students at Kathmandu University School of Management. I am Sonal Shrestha and my team members are Priyadarshini Tripathi and Swikarya Aganja. So moving forward with our case, the first bank in Nepal, Nepal Bank Limited, proudly enjoys the honor of marking the formal start of financial system in the country. With a corporate vision of being the most preferred bank of the nation, Nepal Bank Limited focuses on achieving secure and sustainable business growth in order to enhance their market share. So let's briefly talk about the history of Nepal Bank Limited. From its establishment to 1988, the bank experienced a golden period. Why? Because the management was excellent and it had no competitors. However, after 1990, as the multi-party system restored, the bank's downfall began. There was a lot of political influence in the bank, there was a lot of involvement of trade unions, employees association, which further degraded the employees' performance. And with the hope of enhancing profitability, the bank started establishing a lot of branches. Now, with more branches comes more staff. So overstaffing was experienced, which further decreased the economies of scale of the bank. So the non-performing loans of the bank increased up to 60%. However, the standard non-performing loans should not exceed more than 5%. With a capital of only rupees 380 million, the negative net worth rupees 10 billion, 6,000 employees, and the inability to conduct audits since 1988, the bank was going through a rough patch. So during this period, it was not just Nepal Bank Limited that was going through a rough patch. Another state-owned bank, Rashtra Banijya Bank, was also going through a lot of trouble. So the government of Nepal launched banking sector reform campaign, which shedded light on various weaknesses of Nepal Bank Limited, like tax irregularities, negligent record-keeping system, managerial incompetence, so on and so forth. So various reforms were made. From the period of 2002 to 2014, the administrative responsibility of Nepal Bank Limited was handed over to Nepal Rashtra Bank and a foreign management team. And various reforms were made, such as capital restructuring, process engineering, portfolio management schemes were introduced, voluntary retirement schemes were introduced, computerized system was introduced, which definitely enhanced the performance of Nepal Rashtra Bank, Nepal Bank Limited. So these were some of the problems Nepal Bank Limited was facing back then. So let's talk about the problems Nepal Bank Limited is facing now. Being the first commercial bank of the country, Nepal Bank Limited has a revolutionary and a glorious history. However, despite having the mover's advantage, Nepal Bank Limited is not able to keep up with the innovativeness required by the modern banking pace of today. So, with 27 commercial banks in the country, it is essential to provide top-notch services and in order to maintain long-term value for the customers, which Nepal Bank seems to be lacking. Over to my co-presenter.
So the problem we stated was raised on our secondary research. To validate our findings, we conducted a small survey in two branches of the bank, Koteshwar and Baneshwar. So the first thing we observed on our visit was that the majority of the customers of Nepal Bank Limited belonged to the older generations. Even 64% of our respondents were aged 50 and above. We could not see a clearly defined market segmentations, targeting and positioning followed by the bank. When we asked our respondents why they had chosen Nepal Bank, the majority of them replied that they assume the bank to be safe because it is a government bank. So that makes us question whether Nepal Bank has any identity other than being a government bank. Moving on, we see many commercial banks collaborating with different businesses constantly so that they can earn two-way benefit for themselves as well as their customers through the alliance. But we do not observe such partnerships from Nepal Bank frequently. Today, we as consumers, we are aware than ever, and we try to make a meaningful, informed, and value-based consumption decision. For that, CSR activities and involvement in social causes plays a vital role for a company's portfolio. But Even though Nepal Bank performs CSR activities, it comes off as it is doing so just out of social obligation and is not really socially responsible. It comes off as Nepal Bank is only dedicated to providing basic of financial services, but is not really inclined towards being a positive change maker in the society. As I have already mentioned that the majority of the customers of Nepal Bank belong to the older generation, we feel like the lack of innovativeness of Nepal Bank is one of the reasons that the bank is not able to be relatable and appeal to the younger generation, because while other commercial banks are constantly coming up with unique solutions, unique services, Nepal Bank does not seem to be doing so. Moving on, the other aspect that bank needs to focus on is its service delivery. As of May 2021, there were more than 18 lakh users, deposit holders, but only 6,500 of them were using internet banking, about 56,000 of them were using ATM cards, and about 5,64,000 were using mobile banking. So the lag between the total number of users and the number of users that are using these services is quite noticeable. So even though there might be external factors that are eating into the cause, it cannot be denied that the managerial incompetency shown by the bank is one of the primary cause for that. So we even talked to the employees of Nepal Bank. So on our conversation, we found that the employee turnover rate is quite high in Nepal Bank. When we asked the employees what could be improved to ease the numbers, all of our respondents replied that increasing incentives would help, but we do not quite agree with that, because when we had formed an open-ended questionnaire that addressed all other parts of employee engagement, like number of workshops provided annually, employee engagement in their workspace and with their colleagues, and other factors as well. Upon analyzing their responses, we can conclude that the employee engagement is quite low, which is aiding towards the managerial incompetencies we talked about. So having discussed problems and the findings, we propose 3 recommendations for Nepal Bank to improve its performance. The first, Nepal Bank Limited is to set on its traditional approach of business management. It is high time for the bank to bring organizational reforms so that the degree of delegation and empowerment practice increases, initiation that increases employee engagement and retention, and that aids in the holistic development of employees as well. The second would be focusing on their service delivery. As we have already discussed the lag, the inefficiency of service delivery of the bank, it is time for the bank to conduct some marketing research and customer feedback research so that it can address the problems it is facing and provide a more impactful service in the future. And lastly, we have invest in innovative services. So any business can meet the immediate need and the need of the customers, but it takes a successful organization to meet with the ever-changing demands of a dynamic market, which can only be done through innovation. So if Nepal Bank integrates innovation in its regular decision-making processes, we believe that it can amplify its outreach and attract more customers as well. Over to my co-presenter.
So now moving on to the financial analysis of the company, we chose parameters like paid-up capital, reserves and surplus, deposit from customers, etc., in order to analyze the financial strength of the company. And in order to analyze these parameters, we used Nepal Bank as the competitor of Nepal Bank Limited. So let's move on to the first parameter, which is paid-up capital. So in the slide, we can see that the paid-up capital of Nepal Bank is 13.8 billion rupees, and the paid-up capital of NBL is 12.6 billion rupees. So we can see that the paid-up capital of Nepal Bank is slightly greater than that of NBL, and which is perfectly fine. There is nothing to worry about. And however, we can assume that the parameters like reserves and surplus, deposit from customers, interest income will be of NBL will be slightly lower than that of Nabil. Now, let's look in this chart here. So we can see that the paid-up capital of NBL has been increasing for the past 6 years, and it increased from 6.4 billion rupees in the fiscal year 2072-73 to 12.6 billion rupees in the fiscal year 2077-78. So this means the company is like growing and expanding, which is a good point for this company. Now moving on to the second parameter, which is reserves and surplus. So Nepal Bank Limited is like known, is popular because of because it has strong reserves and surplus. And the current reserve and surplus of Nepal Bank Limited is 16.4 billion rupees, according to the fiscal year 2077-78, which means the company is a lot safer than other companies, and it also means the company has higher debt payment capacity, higher dividend providing capacity, and also has higher growth prospects. So if this company uses its reserves in profit-yielding projects,
Excuse
then
me.
it is...
We are so sorry the time limit has been reached. We are so sorry to stop you. So if you have any question, if our judges have any question, maybe we can move to that.
So the slides are... So what we can conclude from this case is that Nepal Bank Limited is financially viable and has been competent since the last few years, and it has been providing like a good amount of dividend to its shareholders. However, it must focus on aspects like customer relationship management, employee turnover ratio, digitization, better services in rural areas, and CSR activities. And if it does not focus on these aspects, then we can we cannot assure that the history won't repeat again after several years. However, if it focuses on these aspects, then we can assure that it will be able to restore the legacy once it made in the past. So
Thank you so much. Now let's move to the question. No questions? Okay. Thank you, presenters. Let's give it up for the team.